Okay, everybody, we kind of like to get started because some people have to actually go to jobs in the morning and get up, and they say they might have to leave. So we don't really have a central speaker here tonight. We have, of course, Ariel, who's our visiting professor, and I'm sure he'll have some words to say. We have several other Cubanos here who may want to contribute. So we just kind of like to open it up to hear people's impressions. And if they have any questions, maybe somebody can attempt to answer them. So let's, let everybody talk before we call on somebody else again. So does anybody have any comments? Please, comments.
Well, we were talking about, it reminded us of the Mexican soap operas.
Oh, I was wondering if you'd like to make any comment about, any relationship among different Spanish genre.
I want to say one thing, which is that, and not so much to talk about the genre, even though indeed the International School of Film and Television, one of the founders is Garcia Marquez, and Garcia Marquez loves the telenovela and talks about that. But also I just want to say that one of the things that strikes me is that, when families are split in the way that Cuban families are split, that when there are moments of getting back together after, say, 14 years, the level of emotion is very, very high, aside from anything cultural. And just spending time at the airport, I was waiting for a group to come in, and the group was delayed, and I was in front of the airport for about 4 hours a couple of years ago, and I watched many, many, many Cubans coming and seeing their families, and it was just, I was a rag after, because you saw that this incredible emotional reunion over and over and over again.
According with my point of view, this is a film that reflects the real Cuban society. This is a film that you have the opportunity to see how it's moving the different contradictions inside of the Cuban family. But for my impression, for my point of view, is at the end it has a happy end. It's like a Hollywood film, because the family, despite of the different contradictions that they have, the brother accept the difference with the brother is coming back, and accept the difference with her sister and the mother. If you see in some moment on the film, maybe you will think that it will be explode like a bomb, but never happened. At the end, all the people are mixed together. The mother said goodbye. Son, the brother said goodbye also. All people was talking about the memory of the father, and you have the different generations in the film. There is some generation that is thinking continuously about the Cuban Revolution, and they have a historical compromise with this part of the Cuban life. And you have other generation in the film that maybe they have not the same compromise, because they left, they are outside 40 years out of the country, and when they coming back, he is in contradiction with the reality, because he is unable to understand that Cuba has changed. Some group are thinking like of the was in the 1959 at the beginning of the revolution, but other I thinking in the other way. And sometime 20 years it was impossible to see this kind of film in the Cuba. As in some moment we said the Cuban film is maybe the most important branch in the Cuban society that is always discussing what is happening in our society. They are in front of the social problem in the Cuba, the film. And as you see in the film also, that you have not been able to see a lot of white black people because there's it is reflect the prejudice in the Cuban society also. But when I doing in class, I always when the student asks me how we be able to know the Cuban society. If you want, it is my advice. If you want to know the Cuban society, you must to go first to the cemetery. In the moment that the people we are going away, if you go to the cemetery, you will have the chance to see the mix of the Cuban society. If you want to a wedding, the moment of the wedding, you will have to check also this real composition of the Cuban society. But in our things, not always they reflect this reality. And this is a problem of the city. For me, the film, despite of I am not an expert in the film, but I'm sure that it will be able to obtain some award of the Hollywood Academy, because at the end, like the American people, happy end, no problem. Family move together. The other is thinking in order to go. What's the name? Laura. Laura was thinking in order to go to see her black people, and the mother is retired. The brother have a good relation with the other brother, and nothing happened at the end. This is, for me, it will be aware of the Hollywood Academy.
Okay, Hollywood.
So this movie, a lot of the substance has to do with the truth and exposing the truth. And what, if I'm hearing you correctly, a big truth that isn't even discussed is racial prejudice. I mean, am I correct?
Yeah.
So it's like the film discusses machismo and some of the lies about that, but we're not even going to discuss that other truth.
That's true. That for me, one of the value of the film is that they present the different problems that exist not only in the Cuban society, in all the society. And the people have some prejudice with the gay people, and some prejudice with the machismo, they have some prejudice with the relation, interracial relation. And but the value of the film is that they will be able to present this reality that exists in I don't know how many families, but exists in the Cuban society, like exists in this society, like exists in Russian society, German society, Peruvian society. That's the problem that exists in all part of the world. Maybe in Somalia you can do to present this kind of thing, but or in Algeria, I don't know, or in Syria or in Pakistan. But in Cuba now it is able to present how is the Cuban society changing, because they accept that this is a real problem, no, it's a reality for our society. One of the lot of problems that the whole society has is the prejudice, is the machismo, It is contradiction between black and white. It is a contradiction between gay, all the different sexual preference. For me, I have to emphasize the idea. For me, it is a good film because it has the value to present clearly the Cuban society reality.
What I liked about it, sorry, what I found, I don't know what's the word, enriching or very heart-opening about the film was that it kind of got into the deep, the deep layers of what was happening for the family, but because it wasn't a documentary, it drew me in more deeply emotionally than, say, last week's film, which was also emotional because of the dilemma for transgender and gay people. But this one, because of the high level of emotion in the film and the fact that it was kind of a natural, even though it's, based on a play, it still had a very natural feeling a lot of the time, and it drew me in. And in real life, I mean, we don't always blow up and examine very deeply all at the same time family lies or societal lies. We only have so much time. And I thought the film did a really good job of really bringing it to a human level.
I found the parts about the women and the different standards. The man could be a floozy and run around. And the woman, my God, if she was a floozy, that was terrible. That whole dynamic was very interesting.
I wondered if that was had more to do with it being more, a less cosmopolitan. I mean, if it was in Havana, probably you wouldn't have seen those attitudes, I'm thinking. I'm curious.
I think it's
Well, not so
national.
much. I mean, it's a very kind of more rural, maybe somewhat less sophisticated, a small town, but
The machismo is national.
okay. Say that again.
The machismo in Cuba is a national problem. Because don't forget that we have a Spain heritage, and the Spain have the same value. The main Spain have the same value, and we have the heritage of the African, and this mix provoke that the Cuban society don't accept. Or the Cuban men we are not able to accept those kind of problems inside of the family. They want that his sister would be pure all the time. He want that his family would be correct. But they decided what is happening. The men, we are talking about it. And for this, it is a normal problem. But I think that maybe the American men are machismo also.
Yes.
Let me explain. If it will be there, let's go to see how many women are single now, are divorced. Why? Let's go to analyze why the majority of the women in this country are single. They are divorced because of the contradiction with her husband. But the problem of the man in America is very strict in the relation. But they don't want to do any kind of thing like this.
Yeah, raise my hand. Okay. I would agree with that. I thought that this movie was important because it really showed sort of like the human condition, it's about Cuba, but it's really also about the human condition, like basically throughout. I mean, so I think I could identify with that here, or Canada, or whatever. The other thing is the film was really well shot. The cinematography, the technique was, I thought was just outstanding. given the subject matter and how they shot the film, which sort of, I think, led to the power of the film as well.
Especially in contrast to the first film.
I was a question for Ariel. What significance you thought the filmmaker was making by having the uncle who wanted to leave Cuba have the Obama?
How did you?
Oh, that's great.
This means for me that it is the place where they want to go. Maybe you put in the shirt the photo of Lenin or Marx, want to go to Russia, or he is emphasized that they want to go to US.
Right?
I wonder the subject matter of the father being wrapped in the revolution. I mean, he's a revolutionary hero, and some of the people want to like put him on a pedestal because of that. While maybe the younger people, including his son that went to Spain, wasn't so wrapped up in that, and how that reflects what's going on in Cuban society today.
This is a reality.
And like, you know, their concept of the revolution,
Yes.
the older people's concept of the revolution, and today's young people's concept of the revolution.
You must analyze that we are talking about different generations. The generation of my father is different like me, and will be different like my sons. Okay? For this generation, the father who was a hero, I don't know if he was really a hero. Maybe he was doing what all the person or the majority of the person at that moment was doing, fighting with the revolution, supporting the revolution, and but the new generations is thinking different because they have the opportunity to move away in order to see other realities, in order to study the different conceptions of the life. At the end of the film, he presents that this man that was 40 years without visiting his family. At the middle of the film, he said that he would never coming back. But at the end of the film, he said at the mother, I'm going to coming back. I would like to stay with you. I would like that you will stay with me sometime in Spain. And that how the people are changing in the moment that you arrive after 20 years outside of your father or your motherland, and after you see your family, see your reality, have the opportunity to change your mind in order, because at the end you are always thinking like a Cubans. Despite of, if you have the chance to talk maybe with some person who was living Cuba at the beginning of the revolution, and they have now 80 years, they want to go, all of them want to go to Cuba. So maybe they tell, I never back to Cuba until Fidel died. But at the end you want to go. And you're going to want to see your country, you want to see your neighborhood, you want to see your family. Because it's normal, it is a human normal being. It's a human feeling, it's normal. That you want to go again to your fatherland. And the film, for me, presents this transformation of the different generations. Maybe they are not talking about the new generation. They are not talking about all the problem with the revolution or the satisfaction or not with the revolution, but they are talking about his neighborhoods, the place where you were born, the house you were playing all the time. If you have the chance to see the same, that the moment that they were together in the yard, they were thinking about how was that moment. This is the hall where you will live. It is the forest when you go to take something, and it's normal. It's a normal feeling.
But
My question isn't directly about the film, but in a sense it is, because we saw in this film the mother had a very powerful and sympathetic role. But I would like to ask you about, lately we've had a lot of talk in the media about Cuba being not for human rights. There's been an attack on Cuba saying there is a lack of human rights. And one of the groups they point to is the ladies in white. And I know that's a big thing because coming up is the visit of the Pope to Cuba. But I would like to know, because from a person who has no knowledge of this, the ladies in white, it seems as though they are being denied some rights to march where they want to, or to demonstrate where they want to. And many activists who don't know the story sympathize with these women. So I would just like you to set us straight.
I think that in order to talk about the human right, you must analyze which are the main human rights for the people in some countries. The main human right is the right to be educated, the right to receive public health, the right to express your religion preference, the right to express your sexual preference without any barrier, the right to express your political position. As you know, the Cuban has the power, the government has the power. But if the government want to suicide all the internal opposition, it will be very easy, like they are doing in New York, the protesters in New York and Washington. And in Cuba there does not exist a law like that recently Mr. Obama has been signed, that he said that there will be, the American people has no the right to protest in some official building. This not exist in Cuba. But if you go to know how has been manipulated the white women, and because recently the Cuban television present the moment in the some member of the U.S. Embassy, they are giving their money, they are giving them cell phone. There are a lot of things in order to pretend that the Pope visit will be changed as a political action. The In this case, the Pope of the Vatican, they have cleared that all persons that have been paid for the United States or for other governments in order to affect the Pope visited to Cuba. The other thing is that the Cuban government wants to suicide to change with the black, white women. Only they have to mobilize the people. Let's go to finish those kind of manifestations. It has never been, because the government. The other thing is that inside of all those non-revolutionary organizations, there are a lot of members of the FBI in Cuba, like it's normal. If you know something about the history of the United States, when the black people here in this country express all the civil rights movement, a lot of members of the FBI inside of those organizations, they destroy the different leaders. Some of them, they kill Martin Luther King, they kill Malcolm X, and they send a lot of black leaders for Africa in order to destroy all kinds of opposition in this society. When the Cuban want, I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure that inside of this organization, they have a lot of members of the Cuban security. You see in the recent time, I was member of the counter-revolutionary organization during 20 years. I was working for the Cuban security. And, but maybe the government says it's not the moment. It's not the moment to destroy this kind of, let's go to, because the possibility of you have to know really what they are doing, to know really how they receive the money, and how the embassy, the U.S. embassy using its diplomatic immunity in order to make those kind of organizations. I remember when I was a member of the Cuban intercession in Washington, our first meeting, one of our meetings before come to U.S., the Minister of Foreign Relations told us, you must to stay in Washington. You have no any authorization to work inside of the American society. You must only to increase the relation between Cuban and American people. You must to work with the official government in order to obtain a best understanding between both countries. It was prohibited for us to make any kind of intelligence task work or any kind of spying information about it. We are diplomatic. We must work as diplomatic, but it's not happening with the American diplomatic in Cuba.
Yeah.
They are doing another things.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Well, I was going to mention, I am from Cuba myself too, and I didn't know that you mentioned the visit of the Pope. I wanted to make sure that something that is going to speak, they've been talking about it in the media some, but as you know, Our Lady of Charity, when she appeared over 400 years ago, she appeared to Cuban Indians, you know, at that time there were still tribes, and she proclaimed Cuban nationality, which is a mixture of the indigenous, the whites, and the blacks. And I don't know if you saw in the movie right now, the features of some of the ladies, there's a lot of high cheekbones,
No.
there's a lot of us in all of us, but and we have a lot of heritage. But one of the things that with the years they have like almost like throwing dirt on it, you know, that not coming out and you know, let's forget about that and let's concentrate on maybe the African and the Spanish heritage. But how could it be? Because all of Cuba's essence, even the music, the way that people are, is indigenous. And one of the things that came out right now in the latest part is that you know, we have in Cuba, the Indians had kind of a culture which Cuba's indigenous population originated out of South America. So we have a lot of more in common with countries like Venezuela and Colombia, because in the prehistory, that's where they originated out of. Of course, they have the Maya influences as well, but mostly from there. And they had a kind of agriculture called conuco.
What?
Conuco. Conuco is a kind of indigenous agriculture which is very rich and it's very local, and it doesn't destroy the earth, the land. And actually, Cubans have had to go to that to be able to survive. And then in the meantime, they have discovered medicine, herbs, and things that were unknown to them. And it's even curing cancer. And now these medicines I was reading on Cuba Debate, they're even contributing to now for the cure of AIDS. I mean, it's on the news. And I mean, so what the Pope is going to be mentioning when Our Lady appeared to these people, she told them that their race and their heritage will not be erased from under the earth, from under the heavens. It will be continued. So as the Pope comes now, this is going to be coming out even more, because they cannot destroy even Santeria. Was it called? I don't know if you were here like two
2 weeks ago.
one day we had the gentleman said, you see the necklaces, los collares, the necklaces, that didn't come Africa because the people came, naked. So all was here. In other words, there was already a spirituality in Cuba. And then when you go in Cuba to the Santeria places, right in the middle of it, they have a guy with the feathers, And I said, I was telling to Anual, this is the DNA of Cuban spirituality, right there. So nobody can deny it, It's right there looking at them. And so even the people, in Santeria, they call it la danza del cordón, which is very typical. That's indigenous. You imagine, like if you arrive right now in Cuba and arrive at this time, and they still practice it today, just like the Spaniards saw it, people doing it at that moment, and that is part of Cuba's spirituality. So right now, as the Pope comes in, he's coming to say, you know what? If you're going to be listening, this is the way to do it, because she appeared with all that in mind, to promote that, to declare, their heritage and how. I mean, it's also very controversial because the Virgin appeared to the Cubans not at that time, but there's a whole history even before the Spaniards came. She appeared. So there's even a big polemic in the Catholic Church of the superhumanity of Mary, because during those times that it appeared in Cuba, it was at the time that Israel, I don't know if you've read in the book when it appeared originally to the Israelites, that Our Lady of Carmel, they call it. And so that was way back, even before Jesus Christ came to the world. Well, at that time it appeared already in Cuba, so they're saying if there is some relationship with the Cuban tribes and the Israelite tribes, somehow they came over. I mean, it's very transcendental. So to that degree, it's very, very part of the land. And of course, all these people, the Africans, the Spanish, all built up on top of that, and they enriched, enriched everything, and they all benefited. But what the Pope is trying to point out is that the origins are here. It was not brought in from anywhere, and everybody that came in enriched from it. So it's going to be a very interesting thing, and that will help Cuban spirituality, because for all these years, people have kind of almost shunned religion, like they feel like lost there. What should we do? Should we do this? Should we do that? What is it? And right now, as the Cuban society develops in this situation, it's going to be very important, very interesting to see how all this is going to bring a lot of liberation, especially spiritual, which is very important. And when we have a spiritual liberation, then everything else comes after that.
True. One of the problems with the Catholic Church in Cuba is the problem that they don't want to know that in Cuba we have more than the 80% of the population that believe in Yoruba religion, and they don't want to accept the Catholic Church. They don't want to accept this reality. They don't want to make any meeting with the different representation of those religions. And despite of this, the Cuban people believe in whatever they want. when the Pope arrived, the people go to the Revolution Square, but at the finish of the Pope, they go to see its Yoruba Morichas.
Artist tickets.
I was just going to say, maybe the Minnesota-Cuba Committee, we should have a program after the Pope's visit to have a discussion, take advantage of
It's very going to be very
Ariel's
interesting.
presence to have a discussion.
So are you saying that the Pope is going to recognize
That's a
indigenous religion? I'm kind of lost here, but.
We should have a program about
That would be interesting.
how the visit was received and this question of the African religions and how the Pope responds to that. I just wanted to say on the question of the ladies in white, which I think should also be a part of that program too. The Cuban Revolution always walks a tight line, very difficult tightrope around the question of political space, right to freedom of assembly, and so on. Because of the 50-year war on the part of Washington against the Cuban Revolution. If you go to the State Department website and look up Cuba, you'll be able to see the 500, 600-page document about Washington's plans to get rid of the Cuban Revolution. They actively act on it. It's not an abstract idea. It's real. So it's a very difficult thing that the Cubans have always had to face. Sometimes, in my opinion, overreacting to the threat, but the threat is real. Washington has a campaign. There's no doubt, always is looking for opportunities, wants to take advantage of the space in order to be able to carry out this project. I had a question for Ariel about the film, and maybe this was discussed before I got here, about the scholarship for the young woman. Was that discussed?
No.
All right, okay. Now I'm just curious, what do you think the filmmaker was trying to say about the issue of the scholarship?
Maybe it was a pretext in order to use to present the different contradictions. They use this as a pretext, but in every moment in the scene you see the children, the youth. You have never seen any opinion about the family of the youth. Only I think that it is a resource that the director used in order to introduce this contradiction. The contradiction that the people have a previous idea against the youth, a contradiction about the manifestation of the right of the youth have to go to outside of Cuba to study, and the others that are thinking that is not correct. One of them, maybe they presented some official position that in some case to decide if you go or not to obtain some scholarship. They have a meeting, the minister had to make some paper, the mother of the minister had to say something good, and all people have to put an opinion. This is and the other people that think that is not correct. Well, the other thing is when you are a member of the university, at the level of university, as taking into account that the education is free, when you finish the university, you must stay 2 years working in order to pay all the governments, say for you, since the first grade until the university. Right? This is another thing. When you finish the social services, that they said you have the right to move whatever you want. But despite of this is a law, it's normal. When you are in some institution, the institution has the right to decide if you go or don't or not go, because they are paying too. But if you receive some scholarship like always occur, you receive a scholarship, the person who gave you the scholarship pay you the travel and pay you some stipendium to stay in that moment. Now it is changing. If you are able to find some job or you are able to find some scholarship, there is no immigration problem. But this is new. We are talking about 1 year or 2 years. That all the students in the university, when they finish, they present. And say, no, I have a scholarship for Spain. Okay, go to Spain, go to immigration, you pay your social service, you have no problem. It maybe is not only for the change of the mind of the new government, it's also for the economic pressure, because the Cuban society has to solve how is the problem. This is a way. Internationally, it's a way. The people go, they send money for this country. Now the Cuban government decide that the baseball play, a baseball game, a baseball team of Cuba go to the Caribbean at the professional league. It has been forbidden during a lot of years. Cuba was member of the professional league during 10 years, more or less. He was a champion. But the Cuban decided, no, we are going to do it because it is professional. We are fighting in favor of the amateurs. But now the government said, let's go to play in this, and maybe in the future, they will be accepted that the Cuban player come to the major league in the United States without any problem, like Chinese or a lot of people do in the part of the world, because it's part of how is the Cuban changing. Yeah, the Cuban society is changing.
So, do you also think, however, and maybe you were actually like addressing this point, because the relationship between her, the mother, and him, I mean, they had an affair, and also, she recognized, like, well, he wasn't at the top of the hierarchy, but he still had some role, and so there was this, I thought there was this tension between whatever affair they had in the past, and maybe he didn't see her as, quote, political enough, or as a comrade enough to think her daughter was worthy of that sort of, honor. Like, am I missing something there, or maybe not?
And you're talking about
The whole thing with the scholarship to follow up, because the scholarship it comes out like, he had a relationship with the woman, right?
with the woman who's asked
Flora.
A mother, right?
That's a friend.
Yeah, but he still had a relationship with her, and it's in the dialogue, right? And then, but she knows that he's got some position of authority to try to help her get her daughter to get the fellowship, but he's resisting that for many different reasons.
And that's curious
Right?
why.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Is it because he doesn't have enough power and he wants more? I mean, you see the mother, and she is like a garbage collector.
She's not the mother.
Or she's a friend.
A friend.
But,
Although that's
okay.
not clear.
So, well, yeah, it's not clear, but
But
the
then
relationship
you never
is
see
fine,
the
that's all I'm
daughter, or
saying.
you never see the young person who's got the scholarship that's being questioned.
well, I misspoke. I meant the friend who's coming to like speak on the daughter's behalf, like on the girl's behalf. Right?
So the question.
Well, see, the question is sort of like,
He's commenting.
right? So the question is sort of like, she's at a level where she doesn't have influence. He has some influence. She recognizes that,
And all he
right?
does with his influence is slap her in the face.
Right. So
for being a
what's
slut.
yeah? So that other dynamic is in there relative to the decision of whether or not she's worthy of the scholarship. I don't know. I'm just
it's like, yeah, they don't even touch
Like I'm just
that.
raising.
She might be very, very
I think he talked to his
intelligent.
brother about that a little bit. He told her that she's not worth his influence. He wants to use that maybe for something else. That she's not, he doesn't want to risk his position for something who might not.
Yeah, but it still plays into the decision, right?
Because it is, yeah, about talking about, why is she doing this? And maybe if she goes and does a scholarship and doesn't come back and do something worthy, he doesn't want to look back, having been the one recommending.
Yeah, but then he's prejudging that what she's doing, I mean, right? I mean, I was just trying to.
Exactly.
Let's see if Ariel has a comment
I don't
on this.
¿Qué quiere decir eso? Porque una de esas cosas el problema de que ese hombre no quiere darle a buena muchacha.
The problem is that this man, according with my perception, I forget that I'm no analyst of the film, I'm no specialist. According with my conception, is that the flora has the idea that the driver have a real power in order to solve the problem. Only he is a driver or some important person, but he has no any power. And then he using two situations. One of them is that because he has the idea has a real power, and the other thing he had the power because he was his wife in some moment of the life before. And they are using this in order to pressure him to work in favor of that young people that they want to the scholarship. It is a research that the director used in order to introduce another branches of the problem. The problem of the contradiction that exists when you receive some scholarship and a lot of people must to decide if you to go or not. And the other branches of the problem is that in some occasion the person have the wrong idea that if you are a driver of a minister, you have the power to decide for the minister. The minister is him, I am his driver.
I think Joan had a question.
A quick one and then a little bit longer one. But one, I understand that the Cuban Constitution had like an amendment where the man had to contribute to the household at time to running the household. I also understand that was never enforced very much. The other thing is the Cuban Five. I think if the Cuban Five are so respected in Cuba, I think one of the things the United States doesn't like about the Five, and one reason they don't want them to return is they know how powerful they are. And they are the new Fidels and the new Che's, the new Cienfuegos, and they could make that revolution maybe really take off again from the horrible position that the blockade has put on them, poverty-wise. They could bring so much back with culture. I already could pick out who could be the president, who would be like Fernando could be Che, like Che with the economy because he's studying the economics so much, But the Five are so important and they're so respected in Cuba, and I think the United States fears that a lot. What do you think? First about the Constitution, didn't they have an amendment?
Que dice que
La Constitución.
los esposos, los ex esposos, creía que eso era
Maybe not in the Constitution. Maybe in the paper that express the duty of the family. And in this document express that any child could be abandoned for her father. In the case of the divorce, the government or the Jews establish some pensions that you must to pay your child.
Okay, that
It
wasn't
is
what I was-
according with your salary.
Right.
If I receive, it is only a percent of your salary.
Yeah, that wasn't what I was thinking of. There's supposed to be a constitutional amendment that said the men were supposed to help in the household with housework, raising the kids, things like that.
The family code, que no es la constitución.
That's what I was thinking, maybe. But I hear it's not
The
enforced.
family code
Family code.
is that established which is the relation with the parents when they decide to divorce. Which is the duty, the first thing that this code establishes is that the children must be to stay with the mother. And the father has the right to stay with them, but they must to pay monthly some money, according with the salary.
Su pregunta tiene que ver con el hecho de que el Código de la Familia dice que el hombre en la familia tiene obligaciones a ayudar en las tareas de la familia. En otras palabras, para tratar del problema del machismo.
Sí, sí.
Yeah, that's it, I think. It is what you say.
Theoretically, it is in the code.
That's what I'm saying, theoretically.
But in my house, when I wake up, I would like that my wife gave me the coffee. And she enjoyed it. But the machismo is not only a problem with the women, not only is the problem with the men, it's the problem of the both. Maybe it's my son that has it's another generation. When I go to visit him, when he was married, when I visited him in Cuba, as soon as I arrived, they say, people, sit down here, watch the TV, because I'm watching with my wife together, okay? But the wife of him, when I arrived, she said, father-in-law, wait, I'm going to get you some coffee, what do you want? This is the historical problem. It is being solved with a code, with a paper, because it is in the main of the person. 1, 2, or 3 generations. The Women Federation is fighting all the time in order for the right of the women. The Cuban women go to the work in the morning. They work early, prepare coffee, prepare the children to go to the school, prepare the breakfast for the other, go to the work, come back for the work, go to the daycare to take the children, go to the house, prepare the lunch for the women. This is a conception that has never been changed for a code or for a paper. It's a conception that is in the main of the women and together with the men. The machismo is not only a problem of the women, or not only is a problem of the men. Both sides have the responsibility of the
Now the Cuban 5. Can you answer that question?
los 5 how Cuba is sure that the Alan Gross, the spy of the United States that was in prison in Cuba, what the right of the Cuban have the power that they have to know if the Cuban decided that this spy come to the United States, they will come back. Cuba will be sure.
No, I don't think, I wasn't even mentioning him.
When talking about Alan Gross, you must mention.
I didn't mention him.
Yes, I know that you didn't mention. But in order to mention comparison, you are talking me about how the United States is afraid if they gave the Fernando freedom, they didn't come back. Okay? Cuba has the real conviction of the Alan Gross come to United States, they come back.
No, ese el miedo de que son líderes tan poderosos que cuando se van a Cuba, Cuba va a cambiar con el liderazgo de...
No, it will be unable that they are heroes, according to the Cuban Constitution. As soon as one of them arrive, in my opinion, I'm not a member of the government, I don't know what they think, but I'm sure that the people immediately they are going to go to the airport, they are going to make a major meeting because will be normal. Maybe the government don't improve this idea. Maybe they decided that the visit is a private visit, that they have not been to use to any political manifestation. But the first thing is that the United States accept that they go. Because only the Jews have decided that yes, but the government of the United States, they didn't say anything. And when they decided if Fernando will go to Cuba, I don't know what will
You mean
happen.
Renee?
Renee. When Renee will go to Cuba, I don't know what will happen. It depends. Maybe.
You know Renee would come back because he's not going to make anything bad for the other four who are still here in the United States. Renee would come back. He would not stay there. He would come back for his 3 years probation. Ridiculous 3 years probation.
But I don't know. You don't know what he's thinking.
Oh, I know he wouldn't. He would not do anything to jeopardize
Maybe he
the
decided.
welfare of
Maybe
other
when
people.
they arrive, he decided, I want to exile in Cuba now.
Does anyone have any more comments, or should we wrap it up for tonight?
Okay.
One quick thing, I thought it was interesting that Esteban went to Spain and not that it was purposeful that he didn't go to the United States, and that it was a whole other thing. But it also brought in the whole question of the economy in other places. That it sort of puts Cuba in more of a context. Because Spain's economy, of course, is a mess. So it was that, and it was also just a very interesting point that, when people living on an island, when people don't leave, there's all kinds of fantasia about, what is all over the world. But, he was very clear, well, yeah, this is a place, that's a place, it's just another place. And that, of course, in Spain, there's just enormous economic problems and every crisis. So I thought that was an
But
interesting choice.
not only Spain, Italy.
The U.S.?
The U.S.
No.
What about all the Cubans who come to Miami?
Do you don't want to know that you have problems?
No, we
Because
know
you
the
are
U.S.
the
has.
powerful of the world.
Well, we know the U.S. has
You don't to
big
be
problems.
accepted that you are in crisis.
Yeah, we are in crisis. We are in crisis.
I
Well,
got a
so
question for everyone here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, there's about a dozen of us here. How many were surprised when it became a gay issue?
I read a review before.
Did
so-
you see that coming? Did you see it coming that he was going to turn out to be gay?
No, well, I wasn't surprised. I just thought there was something underlying there.
Well, you knew there was, but did you know it was that?
Well, yeah, I was suspecting there was something, but I didn't, but I think the power of that was, for me, it was how it sort of unfolded, throughout the whole.
You know what's really interesting is that in the play, Esteban had a limp.
Yes.
But
Oh, okay.
Léster Hamlet said that was a metaphor for him being gay, even in the play, but they couldn't quite.
Quite actually.
Yeah.
When in the
So.
film, he was like this really attractive dude.
Yeah. That was a really interesting.
When the mother,
It surprised me. That's why I was wondering if it
I
surprised
thought
anyone.
when the mother described him, or somebody described him as a kid, always running away or something.
Right, Right.
how
Well,
he
you could be an
Right,
artist, too.
right,
being back
exactly.
as a kid. That's what I saw that meeting him.
Yeah, right, you can pick on that.
There were some dynamics that the whole family thing was, I really related to because it's so much my family. And, you know, people coming to a funeral or when somebody's ready to die, so many raw emotions. And then 14 years in my family is not a long time to be away and not see anybody. You know, 20, 25 years might do it. And when people come from, and why people leave and then they come back, and looking at the daughter's responsibilities that she had carried out, and to a certain extent the other brother, you know what, and that's something that wasn't really talked about very much, and whether there was any resentfulness, things like this, but they're all part of the emotions of caring for who's there. And then the son, my younger son is gay. I have two sons. The older one, I thought it was beautiful when they were close and intimate at the very end, because my older son was so fearful of catching something when his brother came out at 18. And perhaps it's just what was going on and perhaps not said in the family relationships building up to that I knew that was there. You know, it's something, sometimes it's intuition, which is built on our experiences. But it was a fantastic film.
I thought too, it was very touchy feeling with the sister and the brother. It wasn't part of my world.
Yeah.
But you know, that was.
There's
Yeah, it was almost
a sibling intimacy.
Yeah.
I felt really at the beginning when the brother came in, towards the beginning of the film, and he wouldn't really hug him, that showed it immediately that there was something going on with him, because everybody else was there was so much touching and kissing and hugging, and the fact that the non-gay brother wouldn't hug his gay brother was really kind of showed, if you paid attention, showed it, yeah.
Interesting, people's different reactions to
Yeah.
the film. So next week we have a musical, and so it should be, a lot of people like to come to the musical, Cuban musical movies, and then we have a party here afterwards, so please tell everybody, bring your friends, it should be fun. And we'll see who wins the Cuban rum and all the other raffle prizes.
So a lot of raffle tickets next week.
Yeah.
Last chance.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Ariel.
I suppose that will be the official member of the
You are an official member.
because I maybe have been with Cuban